This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 6:45. Here's the news edited by Lal Malavarachi, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The State Minister of Wildlife says there is no truth in opposition leaders' complaint of alleged clearing in the Yala sanctuary. Government teachers' online strike continues for the fifth day today. Sri Lanka confirms 41 more COVID deaths yesterday. Toll exceeds 3,700. Community police service will be further expanded. The country expects the growth to reach closer to 5% at the end of the year. Foreign news, at least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for as floods swept Western Europe. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh among 8 teams to play the first round to try and qualify for the Super 12 stage in T20 World Cup. Comes your way on Sports News today. Let's take a look at the local news in detail. The State Minister of Wildlife, Vimala Veera Dissanayake, says that there is no truth in the opposition leader Sajid Premadas's complaint of alleged clearing in the Yala sanctuary. False information is spreading through social media regarding the Yala sanctuary and the Situlpavu Raja Mahaviharya these days. The State Minister told the SLBC that no section of this sanctuary will be given to the private sector entrepreneurs for any illegal development activity. He accused the opposition leader of attempting to gain political advantage by spreading false information. Government teachers' online strike continues for the fifth day today. Many parents of school students expressed their dissatisfaction to teacher union leaders for their arbitrary decision to put their children into harassment by suspending online education. A total of 1,446 more people tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. The new cases have brought Sri Lanka's confirmed coronavirus cases tally to 281,989. Epidemiology unit's data showed that as many as 254,831 patients who were infected with the virus have regained health so far. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Health Services has confirmed that 41 deaths occurred on Thursday. Among the dead are 23 males and 18 females. The total deaths due to COVID-19 since the pandemic began last March has now risen to 3,702. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank. Continuing with more local news, the Director General of Health Services has relaxed the travel restrictions further. Dr. Asila Gunawardena noted that the level of permitted functions can be subjected to amendment depending on the epidemiological situation. He appealed to the members of the public to strictly comply with the guidelines issued for permitted levels of functions. Meanwhile, all government and private institutions have been urged to be responsible to ensure that their functions are in accordance with the new normalcy. According to the revised health guidelines, zoological gardens will reopen with 25% of visitors at a given time. Meanwhile, wildlife parks, children's parks, adventure sites, camping sites and bearing centers will also be given permission to resume functions. Indoor musical shows are permitted with 50% of the seating capacity. Dr. Gunawardena said noting that outdoor carnivals and musical shows will not be allowed. Community police service will be further expanded. A special program has been prepared to start community police units at rural level to solve problems of the village people. Accordingly, such units will be set up in each Grama Niladhari division. That ends local news.
Now, get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank. Wherever you are, being a state and private sector employee, to obtain EPF loan information and service details, just send a SMS mentioning EPF space, name and region to 0718 800 999. HDFC Bank, the bank for your home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Member of the Monetary Board, Rani Jayamaha, notes that the economy grew at 4.3% in the first quarter of 2021 and expects to grow to reach closer to 5% at the end of the year. Jayama noted that Sri Lanka remains committed to ensuring its clean debt repayment record and noted that the debt management agency had put off going to the capital markets to raise funds due to the high prevailing costs in the current environment. Jayama cited a strong corporate profitability and the booming stock market as signs of the economy's health. She felt that the monetary policy was appropriate given the pandemic and helped keep the economy functioning. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Health officials request the public to follow the health guidelines during this period. Although the travel restrictions are relaxed, the passengers are advised to follow the health regulations strictly. The public is requested to follow the special guidelines released by the Health Ministry to control the third wave of the corona outbreak. Health officials also request the public to pay special attention to care for children as they are vulnerable to the virus. About 500 children have been reported so far and 10 of them have succumbed to the virus. That came to you on Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. At least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for as floods swept Western Europe. Indian photojournalists killed in Afghanistan. Climate change since failed to predict flood and heat intensity. World news in detail. At least 120 people have died and hundreds more in Western Europe are unaccounted for after some of the worst flooding in the decades. Record rainfall caused rivers to burst their banks, devastating the region. In Germany, where the death toll now stands at over 100, Chancellor Angela Merkel called for a determined battle against the climate change. At least 20 people have died in Belgium. The Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland are also affected. Pulitzer Prize-winning Indonesian photojournalist Danish Siddique has been killed in Afghanistan, said the country's ambassador in Delhi. Siddiqui, the chief photographer of the Reuters news agency in India, was on assignment in Afghanistan when he died. He was embedded with the convoy of Afghan forces that was ambushed by Taliban militants near a key border post with Pakistan, according to reports. There was no immediate reaction from the Indian government. Top climate scientists have admitted they failed to predict the intensity of the German floods and the North American heat dome. They have currently warned over decades that the fast-warming climate would bring bursts of rain and more damaging heat waves. But they say their computers are not powerful enough to accurately project the severity of these extremes. They want governments to spend big on the shared climate supercomputers. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. At least 120 people died and hundreds unaccounted for as floods swept Western Europe. Indian photojournalist killed in Afghanistan. Climate change science failed to predict flood and heat intensity. That ends world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
The newly constructed immigration hall at the departure passenger terminal of the Bandar Naik International Airport was declared open recently. The first terminal of the Bandar Naik International Airport has been completely renovated under the BIA Terminal 1 expansion project, and 23 new immigration counters have been added at the terminal. Dedicated space for dual height spacious departure terminal, installation of new air conditioning system, telephone and data accessories, extending the existing departure terminal to the VIP area, expanding baggage handling with 5 more screening windows and several more facilities were added under the project. That came to you on Development News.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Moving on to sports news, India and Pakistan will meet in the Super 12 stage of the 2021 Men's T20 World Cup to be co-hosted by the UAE and Oman between October 17th and November 14th. This will make it the first face off between the two teams in more than 2 years. Their last fixture having come in the 2019 50-over World Cup. Yesterday, the ICC announced the make-up of the groups both for the first round and for the Super 12 stage for the big cricket tournament will be the first multi-team global event organized by the ICC since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic earlier this year. The final of the World Test Championship featuring India and New Zealand was hosted in. The ICC did not unveil the schedule for the 16-team tournament, which is expected to be finalized shortly. The first round matches will be split between two groups, with the games to be played in the UAE and Oman. Group A has Sri Lanka, Ireland, Netherlands and Namibia, while Group B has Bangladesh, Scotland, Papua New Guinea and Oman. The top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the Super 12s, which will be played in the 3 UAE countries, the centers Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Sharjah. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Fitch Ratings has confirmed a CCC rating on Bank of Ceylon with the negative outlook amid concerns over the sovereign credit and the possibility of further weaknesses in the operating environment. The outlook on the operating environment assessment remains negative due to the potential for the further risk from the deterioration of the sovereign credit profile or pressure on domestic operating conditions beyond our expectations independent of exchange in the sovereign rating, Fitch said in a statement. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Sri Lanka's manufacturing and services activities have begun to recover from a third wave of coronavirus, according to a Purchasing Managers Index compiled by the Central Bank. The manufacturing PMI recovered to 50.4 in June from 42.1 in May when a new lockdown started. The manufacturing PMI recorded an index value of 50.4 in June 2021 with an increase of 8.3 index points from the previous month, mainly driven by the strong recovery seen in new orders, the statement said. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
On to the weather report. Several spells of showers occur in Sabaragamuwa and western provinces and in Gol and Mathura districts. Showers of thunder showers occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or night. Heavy showers about 100 mm can be expected at some places in Uva, eastern and north central provinces. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To wrap up the morning news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The State Minister of Wildlife says there is no truth in opposition leaders' complaint of alleged clearing in the Yala sanctuary. Government teachers' online strike continues for the 5th day today. Sri Lanka confirms 41 more COVID deaths yesterday. Toll exceeds 3,700. Community police service will be further expanded. The country expects the growth to reach closer to 5% at the end of the year. Foreign news, at least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for as floods swept Western Europe. Sports news, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh among 8 teams to play the first round to try and qualify for the Super 12 stage in T20 World Cup. That ends the morning news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.